This video is a film study focused on how Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Bucs passing attack was able to take advantage of Seattle's defensive coverages on Sunday in a 38-35 win. Mayfield had a bead on the coverages that Seattle was using, in particular to the boundary. I think he attacked certain players at key moments, and I'll go over that. Look, there's definitely a huge loss when Devin Witherspoon and Julian Love are not available. Those guys are extremely versatile. They play with great aggression and take great angles in the run game or on screens coming downhill. And also they've got coverage versatility. I still think you have to give credit to Baker Mayfield and the offensive line for Tampa Bay. Seattle came in with 12 sacks through 4 games. They only got 1 sack on a split sack situation and 2 quarterback hits all day long. On a day when Seattle held Tampa Bay to 56 rushing yards on 24 carries, Mayfield was able to go 29 of 33, above 80% completion percentage, by the way, 379 yards and 2 touchdowns as a result. I'll go through about 13 or 14 plays here to illustrate how Tampa Bay got this done. The reality is it did take 2 turnovers and a missed field goal by Seattle in order for Tampa Bay to go on the road and get the win. It was a really fun game to watch from an all-22 perspective. I didn't get to watch it live on Sunday afternoon. So first possession, I'll generally try to give you as much information as possible down in distance and score and quarter, as well as this blue line illustrates where the field and the boundary is located. The boundary is the short side of the field, and the field will be up to the top side, generally referred to as the wide side. Seattle is clearly trying to change or alter their shape post-snap. They're in a 1-high safety structure initially, and they're going to shift to a Tampa 2. An example, if you ask me, of Kobe Bryant and Ernest Jones switching their coverage roles or responsibilities post-snap, very similar to some stuff that the Pittsburgh Steelers have done for decades. In a Tampa 2, you're normally going to have a second-level defender between the top of the numbers and the hash, really illustrated by Thomas's post-snap delineation here. Because Ernest Jones IV is assigned to do this by switching lanes with Kobe Bryant, who's really responsible for deep middle in a Tampa 2, which is somewhat of a misnomer, between the hashes, basically. Baker Mayfield getting rid of the ball quickly. Ernest Jones just really not expanding soon enough to be able to get out there and stop a 13-yard gain. Too easy on some of these times where zones are voided. Even if you void the zone for a moment, a guy like Baker Mayfield will take advantage. There's the dynamic that I described where Jones and Bryant are switching their drops post-snap. And you really get an example here. It's very rare to see defenders crossing each other's face or getting in the line of sight. Jones' eyes are definitely off screen to our right. He's trying to expand as much as possible. He really, quote, should be in a mirrored situation to Thomas post-snap, but his initial alignment really prevented that. Just too far to go to cover this route out in space. I think it's Godwin, like I said, for a 13-yard gain. Switching there, some would say, seems to overcomplicate things in terms of your pre-snap alignment, not putting you in a situation to succeed. A couple of situations in this game where I think Tampa Bay had planned on Seattle playing man into the boundary, and the concept really took advantage of that. So the short side of the field is above that blue line. It's still on the first possession of 1st and 10. 12 personnel for Tampa Bay, so 2 tight ends, and Seattle has responded with their base 3-4 look and a 2-high safety structure. Play action boot. And there's a lot of things going on here. Number one, there's the play action, which is going to try to hold these inside linebackers for a moment, create some horizontal conflict in their read. Number one. Number two, it's a sail concept by Cade Otton. And really, who is supposed to cover this? It's to be a difficult cover for Ernest Jones IV, in my opinion. Really, I think the corner safety combo to the top side have kind of got to really switch this. Violent cut of Uchenna and Nwosu here to the top side. I'm glad to see that he was able to get up healthy because he's playing well in 2025 after missing a whole lot of time. Cade Otton just absolutely wide open. Wow, why does that occur? So you've got a vertical by the number 1 receiver here that's going to hold the corner. Again, Seattle usually plays man into the boundary, and that is Josh Jobe, who's typically playing man, so he's going to carry that vertical and kind of push it off to the safety a little bit late, if you will, here. And Otton is wide open on that deep out sail concept. From the end zone angle, look, you have to give Baker Mayfield credit. He takes a little bit of a shot from Leonard Williams, and he really was mostly untouched on the day. Clean throwing platform from a Baker Mayfield standpoint. Base 3-4 defensive structure, like I said, for Seattle, a response to 12 personnel. And Nwosu's going to get cut as the edge defender. It kind of does open things up for Leonard Williams to peel off here to Mayfield. Let me rewind this a little bit. I just don't know how Ernest Jones IV will be able to deal with this. I know that there's people who would say he's got to get underneath of that route. It seems really unrealistic to me, even at the NFL level. I think the better idea is to have the corners, pass off the vertical to the safety, but they don't know what kind of work the safety's got from the other side. In any case, look at how Mayfield's getting this done. Clean pocket, like I said, for most of the day. This is an example of him having pressure in his face. Leonard Williams, one of the best defensive tackle D-end hybrids in the NFL, and Mayfield lofts a perfect pass up to Otton. A really great plan, if you ask me, for Tampa Bay to attack certain players. Sometimes it was Okada, sometimes it was Thomas, but also specific situations, basically in this case, into the boundary. Still on the first possession, it's a 3rd and 9. This will end up being a scramble by Baker Mayfield that comes up short. Tampa Bay will eventually take a 3-0 lead. So he's initially looking to the top side, and I do want to point out that's into the boundary, where you typically getting man. And the boundary side safety, oftentimes for Seattle in this game, ended up focused to the field a lot. And keep that in mind as we get to a pivotal play later, the 57-yard catch by Egbuka in the third quarter. Quickly, Mayfield has got to his second read, and Reek Woolen is kind of behind this route here by Godwin, and I think it's because there's a switch release. So basically, he's almost being screened or picked, if you will. I mean, he being Woolen. So Emanwari's going to take it over. Mayfield thinks he's got a lane to go ahead and scramble. Fortunately, Emanwari and Reek Woolen are there. Reek Woolen was late in coverage, if you ask me, trying to trail behind Godwin. Mayfield has to scramble, and like I said, the Bucs take a 3-0 lead. Second possession, and I thought Tampa Bay had a great plan for third down situations. They were 7 of 11 on third down conversions, if memory serves. Ball's on the right hash here. Like I said, this is later in the first quarter. Mayfield initially looking to the top side, and this is a great job, if you ask me, of underneath coverage by the Seahawks initially. First of all, Boye Mafe is smacking the outside receiver in the face, number one. Number two, Josh Jobe is down here on the tight end, Otton, and really taking him out of the play from a coverage standpoint. Nothing really available for Mayfield to throw the football. Unfortunately, Emanwari ducked inside along with Nwosu, and here's the line to gain. Mayfield's going to be able to scramble and pick up a first down. That's really disappointing from a Seahawks perspective. Let's take one more look at it. Like I said, it's a third down, and we'll talk about Nwosu and Emanwari. I think Emanwari ducks inside when he's not supposed to. It looks to me like Nwosu is let free by the pass protection. Now, maybe Emanwari is supposed to go inside, and Nwosu is not. Nwosu just takes that path. I'm not sure. But in any case, you have two players pretty much go through the same gap from a pass rush standpoint. And once the running back deals with Nwosu and the tackle steps down to Emanwari, they've really left the outside, the edge, if you will, totally unprotected. Mayfield able to take advantage. He's off to a great start in 2025. He being Baker Mayfield. I just am disappointed in this play in particular because Seattle's been so good all season at putting pressure on the quarterback. Yes, you want to chase sacks at times, but once it's been established that Mayfield has the intelligence and the athletic ability to navigate the pocket and get out of there and scramble, I feel like you've got to be a little bit more disciplined. Was it on Nwosu? Was it on Emanwari? I'm not sure. Still, second possession, and it's an 11 personnel grouping. Pro Twins A, so the tight end is up to the top side with the running back set to the same side. 3 to the boundary is a concept that they were using often in this game from an alignment standpoint, and it also came up later on a critical 2-point conversion in the third quarter. It's a cover 3 buzz in my opinion, so this boundary side safety, is dropping down, while the field side safety is going to drop to center field. It's a really nice route by Egbuka, and Baker Mayfield looking down there immediately. Reek Woolen is in a man turn with number 1. So there's, no help at all for Kendrick. Maybe you would call this a match 3, whatever, but Egbuka beats him to the outside. Clean win. You have to think that if Witherspoon was able to play, you'd have some opportunities here to be, a little bit tighter in coverage. Kendrick has played well in 2025, but doesn't seem to be a matchup, in my opinion, that Seattle would would want to put out there on the field against Egbuka, who had 7 catches for 163 yards. Still on that second possession, the field has now flipped, though. We're into the second quarter with the ball on the left hash. So Tampa Bay is going to motion Egbuka across, and I can't really give you a great perspective on the width of this route because I only have so much screen at the bottom to give you, but it's a deeper out concept by him, and then Godwin on a quick out against Okada, who replaced Julian Love. I think Mayfield knew in critical situations where to go, and this is a matchup or a player, that he wanted to target because you just haven't seen Okada make plays on the ball. Solid football player, glad that Seattle has him around, but matching up against Godwin, is not really in their best interest, if you ask me. Unfortunately for the Bucs, it's a drop by Godwin on a ball that Mayfield gets rid of immediately. That's the thing that I want to stress here. Yes, the coverage, would have been better with Witherspoon and Love available, but Mayfield had a great idea of how to attack this team, irregardless of who was on the field. Tampa Bay settles for a field goal to go up 6-0. We've skipped a possession here. Seattle's offense is unable to get anything done other than a missed field goal, I should say. And these third downs, these third and longs, really disappointing in my opinion. So quads are 4x1 to the field for Tampa Bay. And then the tight end, Otten, is up to the top side by himself. Quick look to the downside of the field by Baker Mayfield initially. And then, of course, this is a tight end screen delay into the boundary. And Wosu is chasing the sack from the field fine. Watch how Thomas presses downhill to try to make the tackle, and you really just don't get the same level of commitment and or effort from Josh Jobe into the boundary. He seemed to be looking to the quad side, he being Jobe. And then once Thomas misses the tackle and Otten stays on his feet, a couple of things occur. Otten starts to veer back to the inside and then takes it to the sideline. As he does that, watch Leonard Williams kind of trying to deal with an offensive lineman at the same time. And Leonard Williams will just hesitate a moment because he thinks maybe Otten is bringing his run back back to the top of the numbers, back basically down here, and that's not true. Otten wheels it back to the sideline. Jobe, I don't think, pressed downhill as a force player well enough at all. 17 yards, extremely disappointing screen into the boundary because it was so easy for Tampa Bay to convert. Fourth possession still. Of course, we know that Tampa Bay is going to go down and take a 13-0 lead here. This is 2nd and 4, and another screen, this one to the field. Too high safety structure by Seattle. Why do I mention that? Well, because it will be a safety that makes the tackle. Unfortunately, it'll be too late. And there's a couple of things going on here. Really great design, if you ask me. The backside tight end is going to immediately work up and screen or block, I should say, the boundary side inside linebacker, the will. Number one. Number two, the running back immediately gets width and then goes underneath. It's a middle screen. One thing to mention is the way that Egbuka runs his route here. He's not blocking anyone, but you'll notice he goes to the inside shoulder of Kendrick. My suspicion is that's by design. So he's trying to basically shield Kendrick, force Kendrick to get width to deal with him, to deal with the potential of an out route by Egbuka. Quick release by Baker Mayfield, and you can see the tight end is out on the will linebacker. I believe this is the center up on Ernest Jones IV. Really great design, in my opinion. Gets the running back the ball on a 2nd and 4, safe middle screen, if you will. He picks up the first down. And by the way, it is the safety, Okada, who I kind of spot shadowed in the beginning, that makes the tackle. Here's the same design from the end zone angle. Tight end going to work up to the will linebacker here. Center is going to work up to Ernest Jones as he flows in this direction, right side of our screen, but left side for the Seahawks defense. Motion across, I believe that's Egbuka. Quick screen from Mayfield. His release, Baker's release, is so quick that I think it really causes defensive problems, whether you're throwing the ball downfield, intermediate, or a screen. There's the two aforementioned blocks that I'm talking about. I have to think that if this is Devin Witherspoon at the nickel position, that he's going to press downhill a little bit more than Kendrick does here. He basically sits flat-footed and lets the running back get downfield and provides very little resistance, in my opinion. Tampa Bay goes up 13-0. You can obviously pick up on my tone. I do think that if Witherspoon and Love were available, Seahawks play a much higher brand or higher quality of defense, more in line with what they've put out on film in the first 4 games. Sixth possession, we're into the third quarter. Seattle was able to double up and take a 14-13 lead. This is a 3rd and 4. Walks the running back up because Seattle was showing a mug alignment. And even the guys that are in coverage, I think Emanwari and Okada, are walked up on the line. So you've got the threat of 5, 6, 7, or maybe even 8 blitzers. Keeps the running back up, and this is a really confusing job into the boundary by Okada and Wosu. And I believe it's Thomas. So you're talking about 3 defenders all triangulating the boundary side tight end, or excuse me, boundary side receiver Godwin, who just literally sits down on the top of the numbers. I've given credit to Baker Mayfield plenty of times. He's got a great release. He had a clean throwing platform, number 1, consistently. But this is way too easy at the NFL level. Someone has messed this up. My suspicion is that Okada, is correct in getting out to the flats, and Wosu is probably supposed to drop underneath and get the hook, but I'm not sure what that leaves us from a coverage standpoint. This doesn't look right really all the way around. Too simple, too direct, leaving zones vacated or voided like that. Like I said, the running back steps up as a result of the threat, the potential for multiple blitzers. Here is Nwosu having a great start to 2025, but unfortunately not on Sunday. And then there is Thomas. Okada is off screen to our left. He's going to drop out into the flat. So you'll lose him, the perspective of where he goes. But those guys are in the same lane, the same window. Very similar conceptually to the completion in Tampa 2, the first play I showed you, where Ernest Jones, the 4th, just can't get there. The only difference is these guys are both in position to actually play this route. Unfortunately, 3rd down conversions were a real problem for Seattle. Like I said, Tampa Bay was 7 of 11 on the day. Seattle was really good as well offensively. Both teams' offenses really shredded. Still that 6th possession early in the 3rd quarter, like I said, and it's an 11 personnel group. This is a design play by Tampa Bay. So from 11 personnel with a tight end set to the top side into the boundary, they're going to motion Tez Johnson all the way across the formation. This route is not necessarily reflective of the path that he goes on, but again, I only have so much screen to deal with to try to present it to you. Becomes a trips formation with 3 down here to the bottom side of our screen to the field and 1 to the boundary. That's the tight end. Play action from Baker Mayfield. So first, you've got Reek Woolen kind of redirecting the guy who went in motion. You wish that he was just able to disrupt that guy's routes a little bit more in order to prevent him from getting free on that later developing dig route. These are clear out concepts, if you ask me, not really going to be part of the play at all. In my opinion, this is a fantastic throw from Baker Mayfield. I do think that Nick Manwari, he's not going to stop this throw necessarily, but if he had proper depth, if he was somewhere in this range, then he's in the window and Baker has to throw it a little higher and makes the margin for error smaller. We're talking about Nick Emanwari right here, who gets lost a little bit post-snap by coming forward, turning around, getting depth, and then just as Baker Mayfield is throwing the football to Tez Johnson, he comes downhill and really opens that lane up for a huge gain. It's a brilliant throw by Baker Mayfield, if you ask me, because the receiver had not cleared that window yet. Motion across. The only guy remaining on the right-hand side for the offense is the tight end. Play action from Baker. Nick Emanwari is off-screen to our left. First of all, the edge defender, Morris, fell down for the Bucks, number 1, number 2. And Wosu's got a little bit of a late start here in this pass rush. He's hesitating, if you ask me. And this just, I think, is indicative of what Baker Mayfield had to throw. He had all day to throw, oftentimes easy lanes to survey the field, and in this case, diagnose and rip a throw downfield. And Manwari, like I said, I don't think he's going to stop this. Certainly not going to get a pass defense or anything like that. Perhaps he could have been at the depth of that second-level defender, another 5 or 6 yards deeper, force Mayfield to throw the ball a little bit higher, make the margin for error a little bit smaller. Still a great catch by Tez Johnson, the rookie, that pushes them downfield by 27 yards. Same possession, and this is a 3rd and 14. The unfortunate touchdown to Egbuka at the top side of the field. Seattle was really committed to playing the backside safety to the trips, and that's commonly used. That's not something that's unique or rare because they do spend so much time playing man into the boundary. That's part and parcel to the Mike Macdonald system. You can see that some type of check is being made by the field side safety, Kobe Bryant. And Okada is willing to help from the backside. I do wonder if part of that is just because of the release of number one, basically going under. And Okada realizes, okay, I've got no work from the X, from the boundary side, so I can work to the top side. And the reason I mention that is because clearly the way that it works out, Okada could have taken over this route, and Bryant could have stayed on this concept that ends up being the touchdown to Egbuka. I'm not saying that Bryant screwed this up. What I'm saying is that the route by the backside X could cause my interpretation, to be somewhat misleading here. And what I mean by that is, if this boundary side X ran a vertical, perhaps Okada doesn't play this the same way. I have no idea what the half-field coverage was for Seattle. I do know that Josh Jobe and the boundary side corner in Macdonald's system spend the majority of their time playing man, so I have no idea how to correctly interpret this for you. I'm trying to bring as many dimensions or layers to it as possible based on my understanding. It's a great route concept. Basically, you're looking at a post or a deeper in route, and then a post by Egbuka that becomes a touchdown and gives them a 21-14 lead after the 2-point conversion. Here is Bryant, like I said, and Okada working to the trip side. Very similar to what you saw pretty much all day and what you'll get pretty much all season from the Seahawks, which is the boundary side safety helping out to the trips from the field. 19-14 before the 2-point conversion. This is a great play. I mean, it's 3 to the boundary here. Maybe a different coverage call from a Seahawks perspective would put you in better position to stop this. When I say 3 to the boundary, here's the boundary. The left ball's on the left hash. They elected for this, by the way. On the 2-point conversion, you can choose middle of the field, right or left. The way the routes work out, probably kind of crazy. Egbuka is going to be the guy who gets the conversion. Let's move that out of there. A little bit of a zig route choice, whatever people want to call it. I don't actually think this is a choice route. This is hard-coded by the running back. The tight end going to sit essentially on the left hash, which is a landmark. And then Egbuka's route is going to take him on a corner fade, if you will, over the top of the corner. Jobe, who's kind of frozen by the threat of this route going into the flats. And then it puts Egbuka one-on-one with, you guessed it, Okada. Not blaming Okada. There's a ton of conflict on this route, okay? Even though they've got 4 guys to defend this, I'm talking about these 4 here for Seattle. There's a ton of conflict created. Baker Mayfield clearly looking to that bottom side of the screen to the boundary. It's a great throw over the top of Jobe. Egbuka is as good as it gets for a rookie wide receiver. If Julian Love is there at safety, are they going to defend it better? My option or my evaluation here is going to be that if Julian Love is there at safety, they may play a different coverage. That particular coverage and that call by Tampa Bay, in my opinion, really puts a lot of stress. It's just a great play call, in my opinion. 2 more plays, both from the 7th possession, once Seattle has tied the game up at 21. 12 personnel group, so 2 tight ends down here to the bottom side, and gives you an indication, I think, of where Seattle understood what was going to happen where Tampa Bay understood what was going to happen with Seattle's coverages. So this initially began as a 3-by-1 with the 2 tight ends and then the receiver motioning across. The motion creates a 2-by-2. Baker Mayfield, absolutely perfect timing on his back foot. No disruption of his throwing lanes at all. And it's a deep comeback route by Egbuka. You can see there's some attempt at communication by Kobe Bryant. I understand some people don't like the darker spot shadows. Sometimes I do that as a reminder to myself for, what I want to actually display. But look at Bryant. He's definitely trying to signal, and I think he's telling this safety, hey, there's no work here. You can push. But in any case, the throw from Mayfield is perfect. It's between the 2 linebackers for 19 yards. Give you the same play from the end zone angle. There's the 2 tight ends. Boundary side safety is, I believe, Boundary side safety is under attack by Egbuka. And again, it's Okada, in my opinion. So double teaming or trying to double team the edge defender here with with a tight end and a tackle. Same concept down here to the right. Great throw by Baker Mayfield. I misspoke. This is actually 2 tight ends here dealing with Nwosu, and this is actually a running back and the right tackle. Not necessarily a huge throwing lane for Mayfield in the NFL level. Other levels of football, you would say it's a tight throwing lane, but in the NFL, that's pretty much a wide lane. Mayfield had all the answers. He was very sharp in who he, and I think intentional, I should say, in who he was going to target and where. Attacking to the boundary, to me, seemed to be something that Tampa Bay wanted to do. Finally, this is, of course, going to be a very disappointing play from a Seattle perspective. 3rd and 14. This is the 57-yarder to Egbuka up top. So why did I preface or talk about the trip side coverages so much? So here's the trips out of 11 personnel. Boundary side safety, Okada is going to move, and I suspect that he's moving because of Mayfield's eyes. I think that Mayfield knew what type of reaction he would get from the boundary side safety if he looked to the field. And sure enough, that's exactly when Okada turns his back. And I will give the end zone angle so you can see it for yourself. Not picking on the guy, like I said. I'm glad that he's on Seattle's roster. He's really good against the run. In this case, it ended up obviously not helping Seattle a whole lot for him to be on the field so much. Do I think Josh Jobe could defend this better? Absolutely. He's totally flat-footed here, and Egbuka has got him beat. Well, he's got him beat already with this little lean to the outside that's timed up with Baker Mayfield's look to the top side of the field that's designed, again, if you believe what I'm saying, in my opinion, it's designed to pull Okada to the trip side. Huge gain for Egbuka. You can see the yards of separation that he's got from Jobe. Were Seattle to have this back, of course they would want to play a different coverage and put their guys, in a better situation in terms of defending such a long pass. End zone angle of the same play. This will be the last one that we go over, to be honest with you. I think you get the idea. I will have more Seattle Seahawks content out on Tuesday. Long day for me on Monday, trying to produce as much content as possible. And I finally did get to the Seattle game around 4 o'clock this afternoon. So Mayfield initially looking to his left, the Seattle Seahawks defense right, directly at Okada, now has moved his field of vision to the right, to the field side, and I think that's what pulled Okada to that side and basically made it to where Jobe was one-on-one, and he was already beat by this time. Really great pocket. Look at what the offensive line has done for Tampa Bay. Mayfield back on that read. I think he knew where he was going with the football, in my opinion. If he didn't get anything to the field side, to the right-hand side of our screen right now, ends up being, a huge amount of separation. Haven't seen Jobe play a route this poorly pretty much all season. If they had to do over again, perhaps a little bit more resistance, I should say, putting him in a press man situation. Third downs were a real killer in this game. It's a game that was tough to watch. I knew what the score was. Like I said, I didn't get the chance to watch it completely live on Sunday evening for obvious reasons. I was looking at the Ravens and then the Lions games. I watched the condensed version late Sunday night and then the all-22 today. 7 of 11 on third downs. Both offenses were really sharp. The 2 turnovers were a big deal, right? And the missed field goal. I think the missed field goal was like a 43 or 43-yarder. I watched the all-22 and the end zone angle, so I just literally watched it through one time all the way. The inability to pressure Mayfield, I think, was just as big a problem. I recognize that coverage choices probably were impacted significantly by no Witherspoon and no Julian Love. Me personally, and this is no sour grapes from a Seahawks perspective, I'd love to see a rematch in the playoffs. I think these are 2 evenly matched teams. Baker Mayfield is playing about as good as he really ever has so far in 2025. Through 5 games, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's got a career high in yards per attempt. Also career high in yards per catch. Now, his completion percentage is down to 65% compared to 70 in 2024, but 65% is not it's below league average, I think, which is at 66% at this point. 63%, excuse me. So it's slightly above league average, but still because of his sack percentage being so low, he's only been sacked nine times through 5 games, and I believe his sack percentage is sub 5%. He's on pace at this point. He's on time, in this game. The throwing platform is clean. He's on time. They could set up routes, plays like I just showed you, where if you trust what I'm saying or if you believe what I'm saying, he looks at Okada, looks to the field to pull Okada in that direction, and then possibly throw something to the trip side. But as a secondary option, he's got Egbuka on the backside with that little, quotes, double move, if you will. There's so much going on in this game from a Seahawks perspective, trying to adjust to Witherspoon and Julian Love not being there. I wonder if maybe Mike McDonald and Aiden Durde had it to do over again, if they wouldn't err on the side of trying to get some pressure, because Tampa Bay's offensive line played spectacular. Some of their max protection schemes, like that throw there, really put Seattle's defense, Seattle's coverage guys, I should say, in a lot of conflict because they had to defend things for so long. Unfortunate ending with the interception by Darnold. I'll have some stuff out on the Seattle Seahawks offense on Tuesday morning or perhaps Tuesday afternoon. You guys are welcome to let me know if you enjoyed the video, if you thought it was too long, trying to cover so many of the coverage choices. Ironic to me that Woolen wasn't targeted as much, at least in the first 3 quarters here. But in any case, if you enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section, number 1. Number 2, if you have suggestions for a video topic, by all means, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I'll try to follow up if I can. If you think other Seahawks fans would enjoy my breakdown of what went wrong defensively, I do think that some of it will be fixed by Witherspoon and Love's eventual return. But if you think other Seahawks fans would enjoy the plays that I chose to illustrate how Baker Mayfield, really put on almost a career-best performance, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.